Total blur.
Yes, they will. One or the other. None of them.
I declare us in open session at 7:28. We'll just pick up and all right. John, we're on facilities here. Yep. Review of TMS roof.
Okay,
Bids?
so I will apologize that Scott informed me that this package came in at the end of the day, so I don't have copies for you, but I will make sure that we get this out to Marissa and we send the copies out. There was one bidder for the roof project at Torrington Middle School. That was Gale. They're also the same contractor that did the structural analysis of the roof. I have his complete bid packet here, which will get scanned into you and sent to you. I just opened the box up at 5:30, so it just wasn't time. The price to do the project start to finish for all the design work, get us through all the state contracting, everything else is $284,600.
What did we set the budget up
For the roof?
That's all that is that does not include putting any metal on the roof. That is just your design work. That is just getting you through all of the state process to get the state grants, all that stuff, your closeouts, that's their permits. You only have to pay state fees. That's not included in this.
But that doesn't include.
It's
the
just an
actual
engineering
cost of the roof work.
It's not the roof work. It is just
Engineering.
the engineering, the
Okay.
design professional to get you through OSCGNR, to get your grants, to do that work.
Just an engineering bid, and once he's done, then we go out for a formal bid for the actual work.
Once he comes up with, what he's gonna do is actually build the entire bid spec.
Yeah.
Once the bid spec is built, then we take and put the bid spec, approve the bid spec at the board. We put the bid spec out, and then we bring contractors in to bid the project for what the total project
What's his
costs.
time frame to get that completed?
There is a time frame in here. Actually, he did. There is a. Request for proposals were due on the 8th. Award of the contract estimated on April 7th. That's if it gets approved at the board meeting on the 31st. He looks at substantial completion of the project August 22nd, 2024. That's new roof on the building.
Oh, done.
Done.
But that's
Starting
what
at
he
when?
said.
Sorry.
If you award the project on April 7th, 2023, August 22nd of 2024, there will be a new roof on the building.
Does it usually take that long?
Yeah, but wait a minute, he's only engineering. He's gonna write up a bid spec that we're gonna have to send out, and he's expecting
Correct.
all that to happen, so his work's gonna be done in the next month. For a bid to go out and be awarded by April 7th.
April 7th, you're gonna award, if you award this to him,
Yeah.
his work starts on April 7th.
Okay,
Okay. He's gonna end up starting schematic design on May 26th. SD meeting with Torrington on May 31st. Design development submission on the 28th. That goes into the state. 60% of the contract document submission on August 10th, 2023. All that work will be going on throughout this summer into the fall. All right. He'll apply for the application for the roof. All right. The initial bid period will be January 3rd, initial bid, January 3rd, 2024, with bids due back on February 7th, 2024. Construction award, March 6th, 2024. Construction mobilization, April 15th. They'll start the preliminary work, and by August of 2024, you'll have a new roof. on
this
the
isn't
building.
going back, this isn't going out to bid for the work until next January.
Correct.
I get it.
You're
Answer the
never,
question.
I do have a question, a concern more than a question. The price has already almost doubled on us because we waited a year or 2 years before we got this far. What's gonna happen now? Now we're talking about a year and a half.
I have no
So
control.
it-
I have no control over.
Why is it
how-
gonna take that long for for us to get to the point, and I'm not, I get
Because
it.
that's the
I'm not
process
looking
that
to
the state of
mess with it.
Connecticut sets in order for us to receive the grant money back from the state.
The state process is
Yeah,
slow.
but so he gives us to this, us in March, we get it, say we vote on it. For my next question, is this the only bid we got?
It's the only bid that
So,
came back on
okay.
design professional.
So why, I don't understand why it's gonna take him, I get the state of Connecticut is a nightmare, but his time frame seems really
I'm
stretched
gonna
out.
tell you right now, on March 8th of 2023, there is no roofing contractor that is available to put a roof on the building this year. You
None in
have,
the
you
whole
have
state
a,
of
you have
Connecticut.
a, you have a 2-month window
Mhm.
of July and August. Mobilization in June. There is no roof contract. Everybody that is a roof contractor that's able to put a roof on a building,
Mhm.
they're already booked out for this summer.
That sounds like a challenge.
That's why it's set up to put the roof on the building next year.
Which
There-
again, I think is ridiculous. We're gonna end up paying another $500,000 because it's gonna be a year and a half down the road.
I
I
didn't
can't
realize,
even
I
believe
thought
we're
we
still
were actually
talking about this,
putting the work
but
out the bid. I didn't realize it was just engineering services.
right, I didn't either, but whatever, I guess I wasn't paying attention.
Okay, any other
Close
questions?
enough.
Yeah, I think part of it is he's in the bid spec that he gave us for this, he's allowing time for the state to dilly-dally on approving stuff. Like, it's not like he's not gonna be doing anything, it's
Correct.
that he's gonna do everything he's gotta do, and then he has to sit there and wait for them.
Correct.
To approve it, because they're slow, and they're even slower since their top guy got a little bit of trouble.
I don't think we have any room to talk about slow with anybody.
Well,
We've been
and,
talking about this roof for,
and quite honestly, you don't
years.
want the roof going on during the school year. You don't want contractors running all over the
I
roof
don't think
and
any of us expected this to be next summer. I'm just saying, maybe you guys did, I did not.
I just think it makes sense that it's gonna have to be that way. I'm not happy per se, but I think it makes sense. Right, like that's just how it has to be, and there aren't very many ways to get around it.
Next meeting, let's approve and just get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Right, that we budgeted that 285 for engineering services, right? For this year?
The capital reserve.
no, there is money there is a money in the capital. It was the money that was reimbursed back on the Torrington roof project that was done up at the middle school, which was about $634,000. And then there was a $700,000 line item that was posed a question to change from the window project, because remember, we did the windows on ARPA. They changed it to the roof and put it in capital reserve. So right now, estimated right now, it's $1.1 million in capital reserve that's slated for the Torrington roof. So this 285 that he quoted, sorry, the 284,600 that he quoted would come from that capital reserve. And once this gets approved, then the superintendent would have to write a letter to the Board of Finance requesting the expelling of those funds from that capital reserve towards this.
Just so if we're taking the 284,600 out of the 1.1 million that's in capital reserve right now, we didn't take that into consideration when we looked at the price, like the bidding of the roof, right? We voted and agreed on a
So
certain process, but
the estimate that you received to put a roof on, the estimate included design professional work at $4.6 million. So this
Okay.
286 is part of that initial
4.6.
estimate.
Okay,
All right.
all right.
Okay.
That's
We
a
good
little
with that?
better. No, but
No?
we can move on.
Yeah, I just think just the clarification on the timeline, it took so long to decide back and forth, were we doing the permeable or the replacement and we were back and forth several meetings in terms of that, trying to figure out and wanting to be respectful of that process and have everybody be heard. So that takes time, and then it takes time on the other end as well. So it's unfortunate.
Okay, review of RFP for lock foyers.
Okay, in your bid packet is the RFP for the lock foyers for Torrington and Torrington and Torrington Middle School. That would be a project that, we would like you guys to review that, put it on the agenda at the board meeting to approve that RFP, and then we would be going out to bid to have those projects done and completed this summer.
It's part of this is grant money as well, it's.
So some of the money is coming from ARPA ESSER, and some of the money has already been budgeted through the tell me what it is.
Security grant?
Not security grant. Yes, security grant, but
So-
also there was money that was approved in capital.
Just so I don't have to fumble through. Go ahead, Jeff.
We asked about the Vogel foyer at 1.2 because it was a little bit of a unique situation. Was there any update on that?
Yeah, so we are looking at Vogel to do just some adjustments or tweaks to it. I actually met with the lock contractor today. He's gonna be getting some pricing back for us. And the adjustment in pricing from ARP ESSER for Southwest puts a tremendous amount of money back in our hands for that, so that we can do the adjustments that we need to Vogel and still have money left over in that ARP ESSER group. So we'd probably be giving money back to use for other programming or something that we need, because we'll be short on money that we need. And so come this summer, if all the stars align, we will have locked foyers in every single building.
Is there card access going on these?
Card access is already been approved through your security grant, and although we are still waiting for the blades from S2, yes, card access goes.
So that's
along.
already, that's already in place.
Correct.
All right, any other questions there? No?
Happy to get those done.
Yeah.
All right, moving right along. All right,
No, so without Mike.
famous softball field.
Way past it's bedtime.
Thank you. for
Mike,
coming.
I owe you. What kind of coffee you like, Mike?
So I know I kind of opened up my mouth last week about some concerns about spending the money. We did run into Mike and the softball coach and express my concerns. So we kind of pumped the brakes on it. But I think Mike he still has some concerns based upon the proposal. Let's really get on the same page, so him and his coach get what he wants, and you can get the ball rolling, and we're all spending the taxpayers' money wisely.
The only concern I really had with was the idea of turning the field a little bit, because I thought, since we're not going to be moving fencing, the protective fencing that goes along the baselines for the benches, that would bring one of the foul lines too close to the fencing, and I thought it would be
The
dangerous
football
situation.
field press box.
Yeah, and
So
but
to-
we even with the field the way it is, it's close, but we do have padding that we can use to put on that. I'm looking at getting some temporary fencing to put around it too, so that we can reduce the potential for any problems there.
So there was some discussion about potentially rotating the field just to get it away from the press box stuff. Mike doesn't feel that it's a problem, then there's no issue. There's no reduction in price, right? Because whether the field's here or here, it's the same amount of work.
I think it'd be more work to turn a field, but
No.
So
okay.
if there's no more work to turn the field, why wouldn't we give you the field with the adjustment?
Because we have permanent fencing, that the backstop, and then permanent fencing that goes down the baselines. And the fencing along the baselines is where we have the benches behind those, and it's a safety issue. If we turn the field, we're going to bring that baseline closer to that fencing. So there's a set amount of space between the baseline and the fence right now. If the field gets turned, that becomes closer. So it's just not the ideal situation. And there's less of an issue with the poles by the press box than there is there. There'd be a more immediate kid with a, first baseman would pop up, going full blast is, that pole comes up real quick.
Is there gonna be fence around the field?
We're gonna have a temporary fence for the outfield fence.
Now, where
That is not part of this project.
No,
Right,
No,
where the,
I've
where the-
got that
yeah,
taken.
where the softball field was before,
It's a parking lot.
it was beautiful, but it had the fences around, didn't it have like, dugouts
Yeah.
too?
We're,
But you still have them and can they be
No.
put there? No,
no,
okay,
it, you know, we, we'll just use benches and
yeah.
hold umbrellas if it rains.
Where are the dugouts? Did they knock them down?
Yeah. Yeah. That was part of
So we
the
could-
the
demolition.
dugouts,
It was a cement slab with posts that were in the cement slab. So there really, all there was maybe some fencing that could have
Yeah,
been
yeah,
saved
yeah.
from it. And so it really was not cost effective to try and take any of it down and store it.
Okay.
So to your point, functionally, then there's no reduction in price and the quote is the quote and.
Yeah, you have X amount of square feet of infield that needs to be repaired and.
Right, and then bases put in, are there?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
there's no
so,
bases on the practice field.
well,
Not permanent
there,
ones that you. can
there are posts in there,
post. Okay.
but they were posts that were put in when the field was originally built. And then I can't remember when that field originally went in, but it's
Couple
been a
years ago.
long time ago. So it's possible that those posts, because they haven't been used, so we don't know. With frost, they're set in cement and they could have shifted, which means you gotta dig them out anyway. So we just gotta dig those posts out and put new posts in. And that's
part of the quote.
yeah. that's-
Okay,
Oh, it's in.
He says remove bases, but there's no mention of putting them back in. There's no mention of my other concern would be there's no mention of the pitcher's plate. I mean, that's obviously gonna have to come out and be put back in,
Mhm.
as well as home plate. I mean, if he's digging out the field to add material,
Yeah, he's gonna put it all back together as a playable field.
okay. That would, my second concern is really great bill of materials. Not a lot of specifications. As long as we make sure we know the field dimensions,
Mhm.
we should probably have something, hey, this is how our field should be measured out. As we
He-
did
he has-
the first field,
Right.
someone put home plate in backwards, so
Yeah, well,
we want to make sure that
yeah,
that doesn't happen.
that
So if
was,
we have clear specifications and requirements, then we have a leg to stand on if something's not right.
we're using the template that the NFHS has out for a softball field with the, proper amount of spacing between fencing and baselines and that, so he has that. I gave him that when he started doing the fields.
Okay.
So that he would, know what we were marking and
So Fiona, what do we have to do now? We did something in the
We
May meeting,
authorize the committee to make the
and then
decision.
how do we just make a motion? Do we motion this right now?
So
Do you
what
want
is the
to see the
time
vote?
frame that for completion of the?
So the time frame for completion depends on, right now, we're not in bad shape as far as the ground is concerned. It's pretty hard out there still, and Mother Nature hasn't decided to dump a lot of moisture on us.
Well, till this
Um,
weekend.
And, well,
and maybe Tuesday.
so,
Yeah,
so really, the time frame really depends on Mother Nature. The clay is readily available and down in Milford, that's one of the things we discussed, right? The trucking is extensive from Milford to here. It's the only clay distributor in the state right now that's open that has clay. As Mike and I had discussed, and he said that if he didn't have the field for the first week of April, it was okay. That they would be able to do practice on other places and get their start finished. But I would think by the first week of April, we would probably have the clay up, delivered, leveled, and the field set.
very rarely do we have our fields out back ready to go right at the beginning of our spring season.
Mhm.
So there's some manipulation of games that has to happen to reschedule them. And that's not unusual. And as far as practicing, the turf field has been a fantastic spring practice area because you could run everything except batting practice on that turf field for a softball or baseball team. And they have the batting cage in the gym to use for hitting. So, and they, most of the time we've got snow and ice out there, so they're not able to get on
Right.
the grass right away anyway.
And just to elaborate quick on that with Mike, when we redid the contract and we added language into the contract. Which Sue had mentioned about making the fields play ready. That starts April 1st because that contract starts April 1st. So next fall. Chase is going to have to, besides dragging all summer long while the fields aren't being used, he's going to have to drag them weekly. Make sure that there's no weed growth on those fields, because that's been the killer for all of our fields. Next fall, right before the contract ends, which is the 30th of October, that contract ends. He's going to have to make sure that those fields are play ready and ready to go, leveled. And this way here, they'll weather through the winter, but come spring, they'll pretty much be ready in the spring, whether we can get on them or not to do the leveling, they'll be ready for play in the spring. So that's the reason why we added that language into the contract.
Yeah, I don't want to drag this out any longer, but I have to. So April 1, he's supposed to be getting that field ready, and his only option to make that field ready is $22,000, dig it out and bring in 6 truckloads of dirt.
No. April 1, he has to make the fields play ready. The field that he was included in the contract when that contract was written was the field that the girls played on, which is now a parking lot.
Okay.
All right. The intention was when we met with Mike, we talked with him, we went out, we looked at the field, was to take the clay from that field and move it over to the practice field, because we were going to have to do something with that practice field in order to make that playable for the girls. But the fact of the matter was there wasn't any clay to remove from the field that got turned into a parking lot. We looked at it extensively. It wasn't worth it. Mike was out there with us. There was rocks in it.
That wasn't very thick to begin with.
Right.
So his only way to get that field ready is do what the practice field that we're gonna use now. The only way he's saying he can get that field ready is to do what he's gotta do.
If you want him to drag the field and not add any clay to it, and then just put the bases in, and he'll do that, but you're not gonna have much of a field.
That's.
No,
It's not gonna be safe.
we need the clay. Yeah, we need the clay on it. It's so if we're gonna have it, we need to dig it out and do it the right way.
All right, we'll make a motion to move forward
Yeah, with absolute vindication that I was right last week, I will move
All right.
as such.
One second.
Do we have an update on the tennis
Okay,
court?
we have to vote.
Yeah, I can tell you where we're at with tennis.
We need to
Hold
vote
on.
first.
Oh,
Someone
okay,
second
I'm
that?
sorry.
Yes, Jeff.
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Aye,
Add Jeff. Okay, sorry.
all right.
So this is where we're at. I've been trying to get course at Lake Ridge. I've asked permission. They keep telling me that the board of directors hasn't decided yet. So we're waiting on that. In the meantime, we have come up with a plan. Park and Rec will be giving us exclusive access to the Duran Street courts, which are only 2 courts, but they can assure us that we can have them between 2:30 and 5:30 on a daily basis. We also can set up indoors using the volleyball poles and stringing tennis nets on them. We can set up some practice areas inside the gymnasium. It's going to cause some issues with softball and baseball. We're just going to have to be on a rotation, and somebody's going to have a 7 o'clock at night practice. And if we can get into a rotation where the girls are on, they have the 3-hour practice outside and the boys are inside, then the next day they flip flop, so that everybody will have a chance to get some practice on courts. We will have to play all our matches away because we do not have enough courts to be able to schedule home matches.
Would you, if you were able to secure Lake Ridge?
Yes. Yeah, you need a minimum of 4 courts. Six courts is the absolute best for scheduling matches. But 4 courts, which is what we had at the high school, it just makes the matches last longer. That's all.
Is there any other transportation concerns that we need to be aware of when going off site?
Well, I mean, what we do with baseball is the kids are responsible for finding their own way to Fusions Park when we play at Fusions Park.
Okay.
So I'm going to consider this to be kind of the same situation. of going to Durant Street. That, they find their way. And we do the same thing with golf at Torrington.
Or go to Lake Ridge, do we make that same assumption?
My plan was if we go to Lake Ridge is to try and transport them there, only because Lake Ridge probably not gonna be too crazy about having
Yeah.
15
Right.
cars come
The
through.
gate, the gate access is. a
Yeah,
pain.
So if we can have just one vehicle taking them, busing is an issue. We have our 2 buses, but right now I only have 1 driver. So we're trying to find some people that want to become bus drivers. They're not, jumping to the front of the line to, want to be bus drivers, but
What's involved in getting like a coach certified to drive a bus?
it's a CDL, basic CDL written test, and then they have to do the activity bus licensure, which is a written test and a driving test with the small bus. It's not nearly as complicated as a school bus driver.
Are we,
HR, do we know if any people currently have CDL bus
people that
licenses?
do are already driving?
Yeah.
We
So,
only have 1 driver. so
right, we had
that's the
another
only
one and we
person.
no longer have that person right now, so.
Do we pay for that for them?
We pay them extra. I think the training, I don't know the details. Mike and I just
Yeah.
talked about this outside.
We've,
So I'm gonna work with Brian and we're gonna reach out to the whole high school team, like all the staff at the high school and see if there's anybody interested. And then I can find out what the cost is and we can,
Just wondering with the turnover, if there's new people that may have it that just never
Right.
disclosed it.
it's possible.
And
Yeah,
maybe
it's
we can
possible.
utilize that.
yeah. So I think we're gonna, Mike and I just talked while we were outside and I'm gonna work with Brian and get a communication out to the high school staff to see if we can, find out if anybody has it or, find out if anybody wants to get it and then see what we can do to support that.
All right, Ellen, quick question.
What about Pine Ridge?
Gilbert School is using Pinewoods. They don't have tennis courts either this year.
Okay.
So they, Pinewoods would be a very expensive option.
Yeah,
And I kind of put them off until, and then by the time I checked that out, Gilbert School was there, but it would have been
Woodridge is also too far.
probably. I do have, I did speak, I talked to Kyle Weaver, who's the athletic director at Litchfield High School today, and I happened to get a hold of him when he was just getting ready to start the athletic directors meeting for the Berkshire League, and they have committed to trying to help us out as much as they can. If they know their courts are going to be available, letting me know a few days ahead of time so we can get
Nice.
teams out there. So that's really helpful. I did remind them that every time their fields have been underwater and they needed a soccer field to play on, that I've been quite helpful with getting them on ours. So I knew these kind of things were gonna happen and I was,
So you have one question?
we're
Quick,
checking into Brody Park. When I spoke with Ed McCann, he said he was gonna check on that for me. He knows the people, so he said he would check on that.
Do we know what the cost of Lake Ridge would be if the board of directors approves it?
They have not talked about any cost. I was hoping that they would just, do it out of the goodness of their heart. The tennis pro there happens to be a former athlete of ours, Doug Mado, who very much wants to get there because I think he's hoping that maybe some of them would like to take tennis lessons at some point. So he's been going to bat for us. And when I've spoken with him, he keeps saying, I'm trying, but it's you're dealing with, people
We
who
get it.
are not
Yeah.
in the same place all the
Yeah,
time.
that's it.
So
Boards of directors, yeah.
What about the Harwinton Rec Center? They have so many courts up there. It's pretty
Yeah.
close for us, right across from St. Mary's there.
I did not know about that.
At that light,
Immaculate Heart of Mary.
yeah.
yeah, there's a
Okay.
bunch of tennis
I
courts back
can
there.
reach out up there too. And see.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just this town or what
Yeah.
it is,
Yeah,
but,
that's owned by the town.
the high school has their own, so
Yeah.
maybe they would rent it to us. I think there's 6 courts
We'll
there.
figure something out. I spoke with the coaches. They're willing to do whatever they have to do. We may have to. Girls tennis usually has like 40 girls out, so we may have to pare that back a little bit for the time being, but we'll. Miss McGillicuddy said today she, she would have her team that would practice every day, and then she would be on Saturdays, if, she could get the courts on Saturday morning, she'd take the younger kids on Saturday mornings and put them through a practice.
Yeah.
And she said when they're practicing in the gym, there'd be more space. She can have them come there and practice some too. So we'll keep the young kids involved, but they probably won't get as much court time as the kids that are playing in the matches.
Well, whatever we can do to help.
Yeah, it's, the situation is a situation, and we'll make the best of it. We'll figure it out.
All right, cool.
Thanks, Mike.
Good.
Good. Mike, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
See you.
No problem.
Don't be a stranger. When police wants to- Walkie-talkie update.
So I spent the day on Monday with Norcom. They did a visit to every school that lasted approximately an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. They did some fairly extensive testing in the schools to determine what some of the issues were. What it's determined is that there is a hardware issue with some of the walkie-talkies, primarily the 7550 models that were distributed out post-COVID, had some hardware issues. Motorola has accepted that, and they're now working on a plan to rotate radios out to go back to Motorola to have this hardware replaced inside the radio, bring temporary radios in to take the places of those, and we'll have to do that, through school until we get them all done. They made some minor adjustments to some radios, and we did training with some of the staff. There's definitely a combination of issues, some of them user issues, and some of them are radio issues. But hopefully with that training, we've kind of settled down some of the user issues. There's additional PDs that they offered to our staff, and I just need to sit with Sue at some point, the Sue F, and see if we can, in each one of our buildings, if we can take 5 or 10 minutes to do some Radio 101 protocol training that they want to do on our PD days.
How many radios are affected? Do you have a number?
There are the 7500s or 33 radios.
So they're sending them out and they're gonna fix them. We're gonna get a loaner, and then when they're fixed, they're gonna come back.
Correct.
In our bid that went out for that, is there any stipulations as far as we should be getting as new equipment? Is that gonna be considered a refurbished unit at that point?
No, it's going to be as new.
That's a pretty quick no. I think we should probably check into that. Because I would rather have a new radio than something that's been.
You're going to get the
refurbished.
same radio back with a brand new board in it.
And it's refurbished. I mean, if our contract says we're supposed to be supplied new equipment,
We already got the new equipment,
but it's
Mhm.
broken,
right? So they're gonna make good on their contractual obligation to
then
ensure that that equipment that was delivered to us new works as intended.
But
But
it's
that's how
being-
contracts work.
well, no, contracts, if something's broken, you get an advanced replacement, you get a new one. And you send back the old one, so you have a new out of the box product.
Not a rebuilt one.
Now,
Is what
if
you're
you send it back and you get a loaner, you're getting a refurbished product.
That's not what refurbished means.
What does it mean?
How long have we had them? That really,
We just had them.
A couple months.
Yeah, month and a half.
They're brand new.
how many radios do we buy? Overall total, not just the 7550s.
227.
Great. So why aren't they just sending us new ones? I'm with you on this one.
Yeah.
Like-
me too.
Tell me what you
Solve
want
the
me to
problem.
do. You
It's
want
not
new
like they're
radios?
even-
Well, it's just easier because they just
Okay.
send them to you and you're done.
Right.
Well, the price of refurbished is cheaper for a reason, right?
Yeah, but that's not what we paid.
That's
for.
what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
right.
So why
So-
would we
Yeah.
take
I mean, it's something to look into. I'm not saying that's what we have to do. Let's check out what the lead time is. I know they had long lead times prior.
Oh, there's going to be a long lead time still.
So
But if we're getting.
if we get in the
loaners,
queue to
same
get
thing
new
as
radios versus, okay, we're gonna get loaners, we're gonna send these back, and now they want to pump out full products. Replacement parts is probably last on the list as far as selling new product.
Mhm.
So, lead times is a factor to consider.
They probably won't fix them though. If you bully them to send you new ones and they say it's gonna be 8 months, but also now we're not
Right.
fixing them.
We're not saying a bully, it's based upon what was in our bid spec. If we're supposed
That's
to.
not, you're ignoring my point today.
Yeah, but if the radios
trying
don't
to.
work, then.
And then they don't fix
Make
them
us-
because you're saying, send me new ones, and they say it's gonna take 8 months. Are we
Or
gonna be mad
adjust
about
our
that?
bill to charge us for refurbished then.
Right.
The refurbished thing is I get it, it's kind of a stretch. It's broken, they're willing to honor the contract and fix it, but really, if it's that new, it's considered DOA, just replace it.
Yeah, but what I'm saying though, right, is if they're saying we'll fix them. And then you say, no, send me new ones, right? If I'm their representative, right, I've already got your money. I'm gonna tell you, okay, that's fine, right? If you insist, it's gonna take 8 months. Also, now I'm not fixing the ones that I told you to send. Right, so now you still have the persistent problem for however long it takes them to
Well,
send.
no,
you
we'll have the
replacement
loaners.
equipment. Not if they don't want to fix them because you're demanding new product.
It's worth an ask.
Yeah.
Right, I'm just saying, right, this is your problem moving forward if that's what happens.
That's why I asked how many radios you bought. If you bought 39, you have more leverage here because you spend a lot of money with them, but see what happens, right?
So you have a question?
I do, on the radios, it came up last time. And then I was just reading about it. There's some of them, and clarify this for me, some of them. You talk and the people are communicating, others, it's a recorded voice on some of the radios.
That's part of, it's not a recorded voice, it's. What happens in a digital radio is a computer, so it takes your voice. Changes it into zeros and ones, transmits it off into space to the next radio, where it transforms the digital numbers back, the zeros and ones back to your voice again. The problem with the digital radios, and this is one of the problems, that's the hardware problem that they're facing, is that some of that communication on the admin radios only, which is the 7500s, that is coming through very digitized. It's almost robotic in the sound of the voice, and it's not supposed to be robotic. Doesn't happen all the time. It's happening periodic times. With all the testing that we did on Monday, sometimes we heard it, sometimes we didn't, right from the same radio. So they're aware that there's a problem with that hardware, and they were working with Motorola to get that corrected.
So if that's, so when it does come through and sounds robotic, it doesn't sound like me, right? So
It's-
like if it's you and I talking,
It's difficult. It is
you can't
difficult.
tell it's me if it's been transformed, right? Kind
And
of.
when the radio malfunctions.
Yeah.
And you hear that robotic, yes, it is difficult to know who
Talking,
is the person that's talking.
okay. All right,
Have you ever had a cell phone conversation where it sounds like, I'm gonna say
it's
the
an echo.
demon voice, where it's,
No.
where it sounds,
No.
it's, so we've
I'm
seen
not
it.
even gonna
Yeah,
say
it sounds ridiculous. The tone is way off. There's a chip that does an analog to digital conversion.
Mhm.
On cell phone, sometimes just a bad connection and it happens at the tower,
Yeah.
but it sounds ridiculous. It is still you, but it's just a different tone, a different pitch.
Yeah, so my point is that if we're talking, if I'm a teacher and I'm talking to one of the admin doesn't know which teacher I am. That's a problem.
So we're
Right.
not seeing it in the 3500 radios, and not every teacher has a radio, right? We've actually cut down on the amount of radios that we've distributed out. So some of our buildings one building had 62 radios, right? And they're not all 62 of the radios have been distributed out in that building because of the amount of crosstalk that was happening, right? Radios are different than cell phones in the fact that only one person can talk at a time, and you can't talk over each other, otherwise you're canceling each other out.
Right, well, that's a training issue. My concern is that being able to identify who is on the radio.
So
who's talking.
85%, roughly 80 to 85% of the time, you can identify the person, but because of the hardware issue that they determined in the 7500s, that does come up from time to time. That's something that they're working on with this fix.
Okay.
Other questions regarding radios? Excellent. Topics for future meetings.
Can I ask a question?
Oh.
Not having to do with radios. I was asked to get an update on the blinds at the middle school. Where we're at with that, just to revisit that.
I don't have a specific date. The blinds are in. There was a date, I don't know it off the top of my head, so
So the blinds are in.
the blinds, the manufacturer shipped the blinds to the installer, and there was a date they're moving forward to start installing blinds.
That one thing, some clarification about the radio. So we're gonna try to see if we can get new advanced replacements.
That's what
versus-
you asked me to do.
Okay. We'll go there.
No, yeah, I just wanted to make sure
Okay.
there was some kind of resolution.
Yeah.
It's the rule enforcer over there.
Well, sometimes we argue about something for 2 hours, then there's no resolution and it sits, so as long as there's some kind of path forward with it.
So we'll start with you. Comments pretty good to you.
No.
So,
All good.
I'm good.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
Good.
long agenda, but relatively efficiently run. Try. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Oh,
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're not.
No topics.
10 seconds.
Oh, topics.
All there.
Ed and Jeff.
It's too late, it's over.
Okay.
So you know how you tell the kids that nothing good happens?
Call the meeting to order.
8:12. I'd like to call to order the budget committee meeting on Wednesday, March 8th, 2023 at 8:12 p.m. Called to order, roll call.
For the three of them.
You know who's here. Gary's excused. I'd like to make a motion to move tonight's agenda, postpone tonight's meeting, and cover tonight's agenda in tomorrow's public hearing, immediately following the public hearing on March 9th.
So moved.
Who got what?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Jace?
I don't vote.
You're on.
No,
that.
okay,
Okay.
he is on it, yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna give
And
people
what?
paper copies before you run away.
you.
So I don't have to keep carrying
All
these.
right, motion to adjourn,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.